When it comes to living a happier life, it seems so complex. There's literally thousands of things that we could do to boost our happiness. But what if I told you that there is a science-backed recipe for living a happier life? If I told you that there was 6 simple steps that if you focused on them, if you cultivated them, if you spent your time on them, science has shown, it's been proven that you're more likely to be happier. It's a framework built by researchers and scientists that's been tested across cultures and used by everyone from CEOs to schoolchildren. Well, that actually exists. And in this video, I'm going to break down each of the 6 parts of it piece by piece so that you can figure out what's working for you, where your gaps are, and ideally what you need to focus on in the coming months to top up your happiness and well-being. So stick around for the next 10 or so minutes. I'm going to give you the 6 evidence-based ingredients for a happier and more fulfilling life. Let's dive in. Now, before we get into the model itself, we've got to rewind a little bit to the 1990s. See, psychology for most of its modern history had one job. It was focused on fixing what was broken with humanity. We looked at depression, anxiety, trauma, addiction. If it was going wrong, then psychologists would study it, which is important, but it left a huge question unanswered. What does it mean to live a good life? Well, this question was sitting in the mind of Martin Seligman in 1998. He was then the president of the American Psychological Association. He challenged the field to also explore what makes life worth living. That's not just focus on the challenges of our mind, but that's also focus on the opportunities and strengths of our mind. And this moment sparked the birth of a field of research called positive psychology. It's the field that I have my master's degree in. It's the field that I've spent many years of the last decade studying and involved with. It is the scientific study of well-being, of meaning, and of human flourishing. In short, it's the science of happiness. And from that movement came one of the most influential frameworks for understanding what it means to live a happy and fulfilling life. It's called the PERMA model. Now, PERMA is an acronym for 6 core pillars of well-being and happiness. P stands for positive emotions, E is engagement, R is relationships, M is meaning and purpose, A is accomplishment or achievement, and H is health. And this one was actually added recently. So if you Google PERMA, the 6th one, the H, might not always show up there. Now, each of these 6 elements is like an ingredient in the recipe for a happy and fulfilling life. So we're going to explore them in this video one by one. I'm going to take you through each of them. And as we do, I would encourage you to self-reflect and ask yourself, if I was to rate how I'm going with this pillar of happiness, with this particular ingredient, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being, I'm not looking after it at all, I'm not experiencing it all, I'm terrible at it, I want to get a lot better at it. 5 being, I'm nailing this, I've got really good habits there, I'm clear on how I look after this area. That's a worthy pursuit to do, to rate each of them and identify your strongest and your weakest ones. And then share them in the comments. There's no shame, there's no judgment, it's just self-awareness. And it's also to show you that you're not alone in pursuing a happy and fulfilling life. There's other people who are watching this video and ideally sharing their self-reflections as a way to be more intentional with cultivating each part of this recipe for happiness. So let's look at this first one. P, positive emotions or positive affect. This doesn't mean you need to be happy all the time. It's not realistic. It's more about experiencing positive or pleasurable emotions more frequently. And look, that might not come as a surprise if I said, hey, there's a recipe for a happier life. Turns out if you experience positive or pleasurable emotions more often, you're happier. And you're probably thinking, no shit, Sherlock. What a surprise. But when I teach this model to people around Australia and around the world, it strikes me how often people overlook and undervalue the little moments of joy in life. I say, hey, it's important to do things that make you feel good, to do things that help you feel pleasurable and positive emotions. How often do you forget to do that? And a lot of people I speak to, a lot of rooms and crowds go, you know what? I haven't been prioritizing doing things that make me feel good. I haven't been doing my hobbies. I haven't been taking time out for myself. I get so caught up in the busyness of life and in all my responsibilities as a leader, or as a parent, or as a partner, that I forget to just make time for joy and to take time for the little things that feel nice. Because sometimes they seem not all that valuable, but we know from the research that taking little moments for joy and gratitude and pleasure are remarkably valuable for our happiness, not just on their own, but thanks to Barbara Fredrickson's broaden and build theory, we know that positive emotions do more than just help us feel good. They actually help strengthen our resilience, they expand creativity, and they help lead to stronger relationships over time. You can think of these like emotional nutrients or multivitamins. You need regular little doses each day to stay mentally healthy. So I'd encourage you to ask yourself, what small, simple things bring me a moment of micro joy each day? And have I been creating space to experience those and to actually prioritize them in the busyness of life? And then rate yourself 1 to 5. Drop it in the comments. Our second element of the PERMA model, the recipe for happiness, is engagement. Now, this is also called flow theory. It's those moments where you completely lose sense of self and sense of time in what you're doing. You're so immersed in the present moment. You're so immersed with the task at hand that you lose sense of yourself. Now, psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and good luck saying that 3 times fast or spelling it. It is an absolute mouthful with a lot of letters in the last name. He coined the term flow. He found that people are happiest not when they're relaxing, but we actually feel happiest when we're deeply engaged in challenge that is meaningful to us. So, for example, if we were playing tennis against each other, if we have a roughly equal amount of skill and we lose ourselves in the moment, that's going to feel more rewarding than if you're fantastic at tennis and I'm terrible at it. Eventually, I'll get really frustrated because I'm losing every point, and you'll get bored because you're winning everything. We do need an element of challenge at hand. He also found that when the challenge brings out our greatest strengths and is important to us, we're more likely to drop into flow. Some people get this through creative pursuits like art. Some people get it through playing music or listening to music. Some people get it by being in nature. Some people get it through physical exertion and challenge like sports. However you get it, it's important that you identify to yourself, when do I feel most alive and fully immersed in the moment? When do I feel absorbed in the task at hand? And again, am I making time for it in the busyness of life? Am I prioritizing moments where I completely lose myself in what I'm doing? Again, rate yourself on 1 to 5 for engagement and flow. Now, the third part of PERMA, I would argue, I'm not alone in arguing this, that this is probably the most important. They all matter, they all impact each other, but this one really matters. It's R and it's relationships. We are wired as a species to connect, and I'm not talking about online connection. Your followers do not count unless you think you could call them at 2 a.m. and tell them what's really on your mind and how you've been feeling lately. I'm talking depth of connection, those relationships that you know are there for you, your ride or die, the people that you trust inherently and who get to interact with the most authentic and whole version of yourself. Well, Harvard's 85-year-long longitudinal study into adult development found one clear predictor of long-term happiness and well-being, and it was good relationships. The quality of your relationships has a huge impact on how healthy and happy you feel in the long term, period. It's that simple. And it's not about quantity. It's not about having a lot of friendships or a lot of social connections. It's about depth and trust and emotional vulnerability and safety within your connections. So I'd encourage you to reflect now and go, who are my closest 5 people? Do I have good connections with them? And am I nourishing those connections and putting in the time and intentionality required to keep them healthy and to look after them? Because like anything worthy in life, good relationships take practice and effort. They don't come out of nowhere. Again, rate yourself 1 to 5 in this area. Now, if we look at the next element of this 6-part recipe for a happy life, we find meaning, or some people call it purpose, but for the sake of PERMA, M for meaning, otherwise it would be PERPA for purpose. Meaning is about feeling like you're part of something bigger than yourself. It's your why. And I'm not talking about solving the question, what's the purpose of life? What's the meaning of life? That's big meaning. If you can do it, hats off to you. I'm talking more about integrating little moments of meaning throughout your day. So research by Stegger in 2012 showed that people with high levels of meaning experienced greater life satisfaction even in tougher times. Having a sense of meaning in our life is what keeps us feeling grounded when life gets messy and chaotic and otherwise overwhelming. As I said before, it's not about a grand purpose. It's about being, hey, this adds a sense of meaning to my life. Maybe it's your kids. Maybe it's an artistic pursuit or a hobby. Maybe it's fighting for a cause that you believe in. Maybe it's just having something that matters to you that's bigger than the task itself. For example, a few years ago, a video went viral of someone saying that every day they woke up and made their bed. And it wasn't the act of making the bed that mattered. It was that they felt like they'd accomplished something for their day. And they felt like no matter how crazy the day got, they could go home and be in a space that was orderly and put together. That means that making the bed for them had a sense of meaning. Now, for me, making the bed means nothing to me. That's the beauty of this framework, is you get to decide what's meaningful to you. Just like you get to decide what relationships matter. You get to decide what gives you a sense of engagement and flow. You get to decide what brings you little moments of joy and happiness. These are simply the building blocks for a happier life. What you do with those building blocks and how you meet them, that's entirely on you, because It's your job to create your definition of happiness, not try to copy somebody else's. But let's continue. A in the PERMA model, our fifth step is accomplishment or achievement. It's not talking about getting to the end point of the end goal. This is not about the outcome. It's not about perfection. It's about seeing progress. We need to have a sense of progress in our life. Humans are wired and we thrive when we have goals and when we have a sense of direction, when we feel like we're growing. You know, whether for you it's like running 5 kilometers, writing a book, reading a book, keeping a houseplant alive for more than a week, whatever it is for you, it does count. See, dopamine, which is a big contributor to happiness, loves a milestone. Dopamine loves a milestone. So give it one. But make sure that you decide what is accomplished, it feels like an accomplishment to you, what's meaningful to you. Don't follow other people's accomplishments. Don't compare your accomplishments to others. Focus on what feels genuinely like an accomplishment and achievement by your definition of success. And beware of the trap of tying all of your self-worth only to achievement and accomplishment. We want to celebrate the small wins along the way, and we want to make sure that this is part of our recipe for happiness, not all of our recipe for happiness. Otherwise, we're gambling in the I'll be happy when trap. And to find out more about that, make sure you watch my video on why happiness can make you more successful, not the other way around. Because too many people tie achievement and accomplishment as their only path to happiness. We don't want to make that risk here. Achievement and accomplishment is important. It's not everything. So again, I encourage you to reflect. Are the goals that you're setting meaningful to you? Do they matter? Do they energize you? And are you noticing your own progress? Do you feel like you're progressing in life? Give yourself a 1 to 5 in that reflection. Now, the last section, the secret 6th section that's been added, health, the hidden pillar. Now, originally, PERMA stopped at A. It was just the 5 parts. But Aussie researchers like Dr. Susie Green argued that you can't fully flourish without also tending to your physical well-being and tending to your body. So things like exercise, sleep, nutrition, hydration, these aren't just about your body. We know that they have a huge impact on mental health. You know, that even things like gut health have a huge impact on risk of depression. Regular movement can reduce depression, sometimes as much as medication in low to moderate depression. So we want to make sure that in our pursuit of happiness, we're not just focusing on mental and emotional well-being, we're also focusing on physical well-being. So ask yourself, how well am I caring for my physical well-being right now? Again, rate yourself 1 to 5. So there you have it. The PERMA model, a scientifically backed model for a happier, more fulfilling life. To go through again, positive emotions. Are we taking time for little joys in life? Engagement. Are we carving out time and prioritizing things that help us lose sense of ourselves? Relationships. Are we nurturing our relationships and staying connected to people that matter to us? Meaning. Are we identifying things that have meaning and purpose in our life and prioritizing them? Accomplishment. Are we setting goals that matter to us and looking towards the progress and looking for our milestones along the way? And health. Are we looking after our physical health and well-being? I would love, again, to encourage you to self-reflect on this, to drop a comment below with your highest and lowest scores. No one's judging here. It's just a great way to feel like you're part of a community doing this work together. And in fact, the first step to building your happiness is becoming aware of where you're thriving and also where you probably need a bit of a top-up. If you found this helpful, as always, I would love for you to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel grow. It helps me democratize the skills and science of happiness. It helps more people learn the skills and science of happiness. And if you do find that you want to dive deeper into the skills and science of happiness, then please do check out my social enterprise, BU Happiness College. You'll find the link in the description of this video. It's what we're all about at the college, is helping people master the skills and science of happiness. But until the next time, please remember that your happiness matters. Please focus on building your happiness one step at a time. And please remember that you have a part to play in making the world as a whole just a little bit happier. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next video.